And this first one is just, what is Great Marches of the American Revolution? So at its foundation, it is an operational hex encounter war game simulating campaigns from the American Revolution. The entire series is going to be built on one set of rules. So Great Marches of the American Revolution, which you can see here on the left. And in the first box, which will be published by ConSim Games, there's going to be 3 campaigns that you can simulate using the same series rules that will be titled Great Marches of the American Revolution. One of those campaigns is Howe's March on Philadelphia. So each campaign, as you can see here on the left, is going to have its own campaign rules, but the campaign rules are not nearly as long as the series rules. So the series rules right now with an index is coming out to about 20 pages. That's with the title, with pictures in there. I'll kind of scroll through here just so you guys can see what it looks like. So the pages aren't super dense. I do think it's a pretty simple system, even though it still has the chrome and meat to simulate the campaigns historically, or give you that feel of a GCACW, which we're going to talk about the comparisons to that at the end of this video. The campaign rules are not nearly as in-depth. So the first campaign you see here is the Howe's March on Philadelphia, 1777. The other campaigns that will be in the box, which we'll cover in later videos, are 1776, Washington's March on Trenton and Princeton, which those of you who know the history know that goes a little bit into the beginning of 1777 as well. And then what my first 4 videos were on, the 1778 campaign where Clinton marches on New York. Each campaign will have campaign-specific rules, but most of the time those have to do with weather, just making sure the weather stays historically accurate. How you determine the weather will never change. Supply and foraging may be a little bit different. I mentioned in the 1778 campaign that there is no supply in that campaign other than the supply wagon counters that you're trying to get off the map, so it's a great introductory. The victory rules will be different for each campaign. Most of them will be victory points of some sort, but the rules will be shaping the historical accuracy of each campaign. And then there may be some times where the series rules are ignored. So the supply rules are all within the series rules, which you'll see here on the front of this, section 12, supply and foraging. However, the campaign booklets may change those a little bit just to help match the campaign historical notes and making sure it's simulating that campaign, even though you may be able to do some decisions that are different. So where did I come to this design and how did it start? Well, honestly, it all started with 2 systems that I absolutely love. Great Campaigns of the Civil War, or the American Civil War, which is a gem of a system. It's the system that everybody that has encountered my system keeps comparing it to. I think that's because it's so popular. And then John Tyson's games, which aren't as popular, are widely known from Hollandspiel. I love his little sandbox systems that I also think, even though they're a sandbox system, they're super simple, but they give you the history, or give you just enough of the history that you feel like you're there, and they create a narrative. So I really enjoy his games. So what did I take from each one of those? I think the biggest focus for most of us that have been asking questions or sending me some emails is GCACW. I mentioned it in the videos that there are comparisons, but I wanted to note some differences, and I think this is the video to really pinpoint what I meant by that. So what's the same? Initiative rolls. You're always going to have the initiative rolls at the beginning of an activation to see who goes next. It's very similar to a chip pool, but it's a dice roll instead. The movement. At its core, Great Marches of the American Revolution is a game of maneuver. And a lot of my ideas I take for Great Marches of the American Revolution is from GCACW. You're still going to roll 1d6 to see how far you move. You're going to do that by wings rather than by core or by individual units. But you'll also get to the point where you're doing it by individual units if you choose to force march. So all movement allowance is based on that 1d6 roll. Another comparison to GCACW is you're going to have to manage fatigue. Fatigue is occurred in the exact same way, or accrued in the exact same way. So you're going to see, if you start playing Great Marches of the American Revolution and you start trying to move your units across the board, it's extremely simple, and it's all shared with GCACW. It's one of my favorite systems, and the American Revolution is one of my favorite periods, so I try to scale it back to match that period. Now, there are some minor differences. So what are the differences? The big difference is you're going to do one movement roll per wing. That keeps the movement a little tighter. There's going to be a command structure that doesn't allow for the large flank marches that you see in GCACW because you didn't see those in the American Revolution. And then fatigue is really going to impact just how far you move when it comes to those D6 rolls that give you your movement allowance. So your movement allowance is going to be impacted a little bit based on the fatigue level, and that cuts down on the length of the marches that you're going to see in one day. That's another difference. Rather than day turns, you have half a day turns. So half a day is one turn rather than a full day is at one turn. Now, what is coming from the John Tyson, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. What am I being inspired by from his games? That's where the combat system comes in. If you like GCACW's combat system, I have no problem with it. I've already shared that's my favorite system. I love GCACW. That is not what Great Marches of the American Revolution is. It's a little simpler. Not that GCACW isn't simple. If you love that system, you can pick it right up. But you're going to see things like retreat before combat, which I share from John Tyson's games. You're going to see on assault coordination, where you're bringing in units from around you and rolling to do so. The CRT is very similar to what you would see in just almost like a tactical battle game rather than an operational game. When I go over the map, you're going to see I added some things that almost gives it a grand tactical feel whenever you are doing battles, with slope and things like that being added into the game, crossing creeks, crossing rivers. So even though at its core it is an operational level game, there's going to be some things that give you a grand tactical feel just because of the feel of the period. Ultimately, what is Great Marches of the American Revolution? It's a system that beginners, I hope, can sit down and play, but it has enough chrome and enough feel of a GCACW game that lovers of that system that want to experience it in a different period of time will be able to do so. That was my goal going in, and I just wanted to kind of get it out there, and I'll go through a series of videos introducing the maps, the counters, the order of battle, my ideas behind command, and then go through each part of the sequence of play in a little more organized way using the Vassal module. So if that's something you're interested in, I hope this is a little more clear on what my goal is with the system and what the game is, and hopefully these next couple of videos will show you how it plays and if it's something that is for you. Thanks for watching.